firsts, and we're going to have a look at some of those. The first by-election of this parliament, and it's a win for Reform, a party that barely scratched the surface in the general election in this seat, now taking the seat by a majority of 6, the slimmest of margins. Let's go straight over here to look at what changed in order to give Reform that advantage. You can see the Reform vote going up 20 percentage points. Labour, really the biggest victim today. They're down 14%. The Conservatives down 8 as well. This, and we can see a lot of this pattern over the next 24 hours, I think, is really the story of the election. Labour down, in fact, more than the Tories at the hands of Reform, and I think that's a big deal. The narrowest of margins.
Britain is buckling under pressure, and now even the King has had enough. After Nigel Farage's Reform UK pulled off a stunning upset in the 2025 local elections, Prime Minister Keir Starmer lashed out with a heavy-handed crackdown that's only made things worse. Instead of calming tensions, the government went after farmers, protesters, and everyday citizens who dared to push back against Labour Party policies. The arrests have stunned the nation, blurring the line between democracy and dystopia.
I'm outside the Runcorn and Helsby by-election count hall, where we just saw Sarah Pochin win a historic victory over Labour's Karen Shaw. It's been held by Labour for more than 40 years, and she overturned a majority of 15,000 votes.
The people of Runcorn and Helsby have spoken. Enough is enough. Enough Tory failure, enough Labour lies.
Now, inside Buckingham Palace, there's open fury. Sources close to King Charles reveal he was livid after hearing that peaceful protesters, including farmers and concerned voters, were being dragged away from demonstrations and local meetings, sometimes for nothing more than voicing an opinion. At the heart of the unrest, a new inheritance tax targeting agricultural land. A death sentence for many family farms that have been handed down for generations. Facing financial ruin, farmers hit back hard. Rural Britain erupted in protest, with tractor blockades, cancelled markets, and fields transformed into protest camps as thousands demanded the government listen. But Starmer chose force over dialogue, unleashing police squads to crush the demonstrations. Over 300 people were arrested, many still held without charges, igniting a firestorm across social media as heartbreaking images of elderly farmers, mothers, and working-class youths in handcuffs flooded the internet. The anger is no longer just rural, it's national. And it's not just the farmers feeling the heat.
Extraordinary, because it's a first past the post system, winning one candidate by only 6 votes out of some 20,000. Extraordinary stuff. Myron, tell us, how's it feeling like to be in Britain to have a proper Conservative Party back again?
Yeah, well, this is an amazing time because, yes, these were just local elections, but in reality, these elections have ushered in a whole new political landscape that probably only happens once in a century, because the first past the post system, as you mentioned, has been well and truly broken. When Nigel came back in July last year during the general election, he said he would just make a bridgehead into Parliament. So the first crack of that first past the post system, which locks in Labour and the Conservatives, was made in July. And then as he progressed and during making arenas, filling up arenas with thousands of people and campaigning across the country, the accusation was Reform is just a protest party. It's something that is celebratory, yes, but full of razzmatazz, but nothing really of substance. So the real test came in these local elections where the polling had to translate into actual votes. And that is what has happened. And it's been an absolute bloodbath for the opposition parties. Reform got 670 odd councillors elected, 10 local councils come under their control, plus this by-election, a parliamentary by-election, as you said, won by 6 votes, which was previously lost by 15,000 votes.
Wow.
Ordinary voters who dared to challenge Labour MPs over rising taxes, benefit cuts and skyrocketing energy bills are reportedly being thrown out of town hall meetings and detained under harsh new security laws. What kind of government arrests its own people for asking questions? A government that's run out of answers? And if whispers coming out of Buckingham Palace are true, King Charles may no longer be willing to sit quietly. Insiders say the normally composed monarch lost his temper after watching footage of a disabled veteran being manhandled by police during a protest in Yorkshire. In a private meeting with senior advisors, the king reportedly slammed his hand on the table and fumed that this wasn't the Britain his mother had left behind, but something darker, something authoritarian. Shortly after, in a private phone call to Prime Minister Starmer, Charles is said to have delivered a stern warning. The patience of the nation and the crown is wearing dangerously thin. When even the king feels compelled to speak out, it's clear Britain is teetering on the edge. Yet despite the warning signs flashing all around him, Keir Starmer refuses to back down. Instead of easing tensions, he's digging in deeper, tightening protest laws, ramping up digital surveillance, and floating vague new restrictions on political speech. Moves that critics say aren't about protecting the public, but about silencing opposition. Especially Reform UK, whose rapid rise has rattled the political establishment. But Starmer has made a fatal miscalculation. This isn't the Britain of the 1990s anymore. The public isn't blind, and they're certainly not obedient. Thanks to Nigel Farage and the explosive growth of Reform UK, millions of Britons have woken up. They now see through the hollow promises of a two-party system that has grown arrogant, detached, and increasingly repressive whenever it's challenged. Reform UK's stunning sweep across 10 local councils, even flipping former Labour strongholds, wasn't a fluke. The victory in Runcorn and Helsby, where voters rejected both Labour and the Conservatives, sent a message loud and clear. Britain is ready for a new path. And how did Labour react to this democratic revolution? By showing its true colours. The party that once claimed to champion the working class is now the one ordering their arrests. The government that promised to shield the vulnerable is slashing benefits without a second thought, raising taxes on modest earners and leaving struggling families to fend for themselves. And then there's the disaster of their energy policy, a virtue-signaling crusade that's crippled domestic oil and gas production. Energy bills have soared, industries have buckled, and thousands of households are bracing for a brutal winter with no real support in sight. When everyday people dare to protest, they're smeared as troublemakers. When farmers defend their land, they're accused of tax evasion. When someone challenges policy decisions, they're casually slapped with the label far right. It's a shameful strategy, and the public sees right through it. Starmer might believe he's tightening his grip on power. In reality, every crackdown, every overreach, every arrest is exposing just how fragile his position has become. And Nigel Farage, he's not just watching, he's capitalising. Outside Parliament, Farage delivered a fiery speech that echoed far beyond the steps where he stood. He blasted the arrests of peaceful farmers and ordinary voters as a stain on Britain's democracy, vowing that Reform UK would bring this madness to an end. His pledge was simple but powerful: restore the people's voice and dismantle the bloated machine Labour has built around itself. And the message is catching fire. In rural villages, in industrial towns, among wage earners and small business owners, support for reform isn't just growing, it's surging. This movement isn't about political ideology anymore. It's about survival, about pushing back against a system that has stopped representing those it claims to serve. And in the shadows of Buckingham Palace, another force is stirring. Rumours are swirling that King Charles is quietly weighing his constitutional option. While his powers are limited, even a single public rebuke from the monarchy would send shockwaves through Westminster and strike at the very core of Starmer's authority. Because no government can rule by fear forever. You can't arrest farmers, silence pensioners, or gag dissenters and still expect loyalty. Starmer may have thought Labour's victory gave him a blank cheque to govern as he pleased. Instead, he's under a national microscope. Every move, every misstep broadcast to a public that's growing angrier by the hour. The cracks in his leadership aren't just showing, they're widening fast. The uprising has begun. The silence that once muffled Britain's frustrations has been shattered. And now, even the king has drawn his line in the sand. The real question isn't whether Starmer will cross it, it's how soon, and when he does, what will Britain look like on the other side? In her victory speech, Andrea Jenkyns didn't hold back. She tore into her opponents, accusing them of running a smear campaign filled with dirty tricks and personal attacks. Jenkins alleged that the Conservatives had pressured police to interfere in her campaign, while rivals spread nasty rumours about her private life, even suggesting she had an inappropriate relationship with a political associate. She wasn't done. Jenkins called out one rival candidate who had criticised her for not being local, pointing out the irony of someone with a South African accent questioning her roots. Only seen as a rising star among the Conservatives' right wing, Jenkins made it clear she's now charting a very different course. She slammed the government's immigration policies, attacking the use of taxpayer money to house migrants in hotels. Instead, she advocated for temporary camps, a model similar to France's approach, as a more sustainable solution. Now, in her new role, Jenkins will oversee a £24 million sterling, 0 pence budget and steer major areas like transport planning, vocational training, and economic development across a region home to 4 million people. Her speech was so fiery that, according to witnesses, the other candidates walked off stage, leaving Jenkins alone at the microphone, finishing her victory remarks to a stunned room. While in Doncaster, incumbent Mayor Ross Jones managed to cling on to her position, but just barely, winning by fewer than 700 votes. Jones used her narrow victory to send a blunt message to Labour's national leadership. "You're completely out of touch." She didn't mince words. Jones slammed proposed changes to winter heating allowances, condemned the hike in employers' national insurance contributions, and ripped into welfare cuts, warning that these policies are suffocating real people on the ground. She pointed out that she had already directed local support funds to make sure no one would be left freezing this winter. She also highlighted how higher national insurance costs are squeezing small businesses to the breaking point, while tighter restrictions on independent support services are pushing families closer to the edge. Jones made it clear, if Labour doesn't start listening to the communities it claims to serve, the backlash will only grow louder. This wasn't just a victory speech, it was a warning shot. Despite Reform UK's surge across the country, Labour managed to cling on to a key prize, the West of England mayor race. The contest was supposed to be tight, especially with the Green Party gaining ground in the region. But the real twist came when Reform UK, not the Greens, jumped into second place. A seismic shift for a traditionally left-heeling stronghold. Flying the flag for Reform was Aaron Banks, the controversial businessman best known as the bad boy of Brexit and a major funder of the Leave campaign. Banks pulled in 45,252 votes, falling short to Labour's Helen Godwin, who secured 51 and 197 votes. On the surface, Labour's narrow win was a relief, but underneath, the political landscape was clearly shifting. The fact that Reform outpaced the Greens and came strikingly close to Labour revealed just how hungry voters are for change, even in areas once considered locked down by the left. It wasn't just a good showing for Reform UK, it was proof that the political centre of gravity is moving, and fast. Back in Lincolnshire, Andrea Jenkins was celebrating more than just a local win. She was laying down a blueprint for Reform UK's national ambitions. She hailed the results as a major breakthrough, describing Lincolnshire as the launchpad for a full-scale political revolution at the next general election. Her promise? To tear down the bloated, inefficient state and replace it with a leaner, smarter government that actually serves the people. Jenkins even joked about creating a Doge government, borrowing a playful nod from Elon Musk's tech world slang. But beneath the humour was a serious commitment to overhaul how government works. Her vision is bold: slash bureaucracy, cut waste, and restore common sense to public policy. Climate policies were firmly in her crosshairs too. Her campaign loudly rejected Labour's green agenda, rallying supporters under slogans like "Say no to the net zero madness." For Jenkins, Britain's aggressive climate mandates were less about saving the planet and more about strangling industries, hiking energy costs, and burdening ordinary families. The message resonated. Lincolnshire wasn't just voting for a candidate, it was sending a warning to Westminster. The old political games no longer cut it. Across Britain, the signs are unmistakable. The ground is shifting. What began as rural frustration has grown into a sweeping movement that's rattling both Labour and the Conservatives, who are rising up not because of loyalty to any party, but because they're tired of being ignored and punished for speaking out. Reform UK is no longer a fringe protest. It's tapping into real, deep-seated anger, the kind that topples governments. And while Keir Starmer tightens his grip, expands surveillance, and cracks down on dissent, he's missing the bigger picture. The more force he uses, the faster the resistance grows. The monarchy, once expected to remain neutral, is now reportedly simmering with frustration. King Charles, weighing his constitutional options, even if quietly, is a historic warning sign that Britain's democratic stability is under real strain. You can't govern a free nation by handcuffing its citizens and calling it progress. And sooner or later, every government that forgets that truth faces the same fate. The clock is ticking, and the people are no longer silent. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like and subscribe to the channel and watch more videos here.